Okay. So Nelicia, my first question is like, what inspired you to become a filmmaker? Why you wanted to become a filmmaker?
Oh, uh, for me, it was less of like an inspiration, but it was like a very strange calling when I was very young. So all I remember is that when I was like 5, 6, um, and I remember like my favorite film was like Pocahontas, Disney's Pocahontas. And I just remember that I watched that film, I don't know, like 100 times over and over again. And I just, it had such a big impact on me. I remember that I used to, I mean, it was very strange. It was like, even though I was the person watching the film, I felt like actually the film was watching. So it had a very big impact. I felt like I was seen and I really understood what the film was about, like don't listen to everyone. You can carve your own route in life and listen to your heart. And it just really spoke to me. And so I kind of knew I wanted to be a filmmaker since I was like 6 or 7. It was a very, like, I'm quite a anxious person, but for some very strange reason, filmmaking is like the one thing in life I'm very sure about. And it's been a lifelong thing, which is a very strange thing because in Singapore, we didn't really have an industry. So, but somehow I knew that like, oh, okay, I'm meant to do this.
So have you gone to film school? And like, what's your
Yes.
experience? Like, does it really help to go to film school or not?
So I did my MFA in film directing at Columbia University in New York. And I think as with everything in life, it's very like person to person based. So I don't think it's like, I think the thing about film school, and I think Werner Herzog said something very similar. It can't turn you into a filmmaker, and that's true because But what he reads is that if you don't have a story to tell, no film school can turn you into a storyteller, right? But then the thing about Columbia, at least, is that it gave you a lot of skills. So how the Columbia system works is that they pick people who they think have very interesting stories to tell because they believe that as long as your soul is interesting, your stories are interesting, we can give you the tools to tell those stories. We can teach you how to like the skills. And quite frankly, skills are quite like if you put effort, like you can learn quite fast. So for me personally, I had a very good time at Columbia. I did 5 years there and I like basically that's when I learned everything I know now. It was basically that program. I had amazing professors, amazing classmates, and I would say like if I didn't go to Columbia, maybe it would take me 10 to 20 years to learn what I learned in 2 years. It was like it's the speed. But for sure, it's like if you're not if you don't have an interesting story to tell, you can go to the best film school in the world and like nothing will come out of it. And I think at the same time, for sure not everybody had the same experience that I had. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Depends, yeah.
Talk about your film, PS. So it explores the intense relationship between two brothers. So what inspired the story?
So there was it was basically uh inspired by it was very like autobiographical stories. So the first thing that sparked the idea was I was in Taipei shooting a short film in 2014. And when I was there, there was like a mass murder incident that happened like 2 months before I got there, which there was this like 21-year-old um guy, like this university student that went onto the subway train and he like stabbed a lot of people. I think 4 people died. But what was even more shocking than what he did for me was his family's reaction because in the news they reported that his parents they went on the streets of Taipei to beg the government to execute their son. But then he had a younger brother who supported his older brother. And the younger brother was like, "Oh, I don't believe he could have done something like this." And something about the younger brother's reaction reminded me of my relationship with my older brother because when I was young, I didn't understand that my older brother was autistic. So I idolized our entire relationship to the point that, like, everywhere we went, we always held hands, we always played games. But later on, when I grew up, I realized, like, oh, actually, he wasn't really holding my hand. In fact, I was the one that was grabbing his hand because I was scared he was going to run away. But, I was very good at gaslighting myself, very good at self delusion. So basically, that was like the basis for Peers. And obviously, in the process of writing a story, especially something so autobiographical, uh, when I started writing the story, obviously, the brother in Pierce not autistic. But what I kept from my personal life is that I didn't understand, I didn't ever know what my brother was really thinking. And it's insane for Zia Pierce. He doesn't really know what the older brother is thinking. But obviously the older brother in Pierce is much more like manipulative and very smart, very cunning. And that's when him being a fencer started making sense to me. So that's when fencing entered the story. And also, I used to be like a national fencer for Singapore, so I could just draw on that background and really, because I understand that like fencing is really about strategy, and it's like you must always guess what your opponent is going to do next. And so I just thought, oh, he'd be a very very good fencer because he's so cunning, and that's when fencing was then became a very big part of the story.
So, like, it's your first feature film? So, getting funding for a first feature film is very difficult. So, how did you get funding and producers for the film?
So I first started with my Singaporean team. I met Sam and Jeremy from Protocol, and then the first grant we got was the New Talent Feature grant. Uh, and then after that, we had co-producers come in. So our Taiwanese co-producer, a Flash Forward, Passion and Arrow. So they brought in a number of brands from Taiwan. I think we got Taika, Taipei, Taoyuan, Haipo, City Funds. Uh, and then after that, we also had a Polish co-producer come in, which is why I have a Polish DOP, Polish composer. And we also finished the film at the LAD, Fixa LAD in Poland. And then we got the Poland, like, my Galaxy pro-production grant as well as Hubert Bau. So it just sort of, I think, I mean, if it were me, I would say we got lucky because we got funded quite fast. But if you ask my producers, they were saying, oh, like, it was the script that it bought the funding very quickly because I had developed the film for a long time. I started writing it when I was ready at Columbia. So actually, I wrote it for 5 years. By the time we started applying for grants, it was a very advanced stage.
So, have you participated in labs and development program for peers as well?
Yes, we were part of like Talents Tokyo. And also there was one more. Oh, Circle Film Lab in the Philippines. Yeah. So both were very useful and helpful for sure. No. Mm.
So, the protagonist in the film seems to struggle with internal conflict. So, how did you work with the actors?
Um, when I chose the actors, I made sure to choose actors who had a very strong personal connection to the film, because when I work with actors, it's very important for me to draw from their personal lives so that the characters can become more realistic. So with Siu Fu, who plays the younger brother, he really understood Zijia's final choice in the film, and he's very similar to his character. Like, he's a giver. He's a very like good heart and good soul. So which is why he really understood the character. And then for the older brother, for Ning, I casted him after the audition that he did with Siu Fu. And for him, it was very interesting when I met all the actors for the older brother. A lot of them, I think because of their personal experience, they kept questioning, how did someone become this way, but actually Pierce is not about how he became that way. Pierce is like, it's a film that happens in the now, and it questions like, can the younger brother have an impact on the older brother or not? Can all this love translate and change him now? Like, it doesn't really matter what happened before, or like whether he was born this way or whatever, right? So Ning, who plays the older brother, was the only actor didn't question the older brother's nature. He just knew that it was Cosmo, and I think it's also because of his own personal background that he understood this intrinsically. And when they first auditioned together, he was very clear uh, that they were right. Like, there was a lot of chemistry, and Ning, the older brother, really understood the character, and to the point that, but at the same time, it was very likable. So when I auditioned them, I remember I removed like a few important lines from the script to test to see if the actors really understood the character. So one thing I did was during there's a scene in the supermarket, the first time the younger brother gives them money. So in the original script, actually I wrote in the original script that the older brother pretends to be surprised when he sees the younger brother. I removed this line during the audition. I just put that, oh, he looked surprised. Um, and all the actors that came in all acted like they were genuinely surprised, except for Yo Ning, who even before we started the audition, he said, oh, but I already know that he's coming to see me. So I'm not really surprised. So I think he really, really understood the character a lot. And then also when after the audition, I spoke to Siu Ho, the younger brother, and Su said that I was like, how do you feel with him? And his reaction was, I really don't know what he's thinking. I really, really can't tell what he's thinking. So I thought, okay, Yeo Ning is also naturally very like more repressed. But it's not like, so the difference between him and his character is that Yeo Ning is someone who is not, he's naturally repressed in a sort of like very masculine way of like super out, like that's a bit of his family background, that the older character is someone who is hiding himself on purpose. So basically, if I work with him was how do we make this sort of natural hiding of your emotions more helps that you do it on purpose. You're not naturally like that. Yeah.
So, what was the biggest challenge in bringing Pierce to life from script to screen?
When making during the shoot or like the whole process or the full process, for sure it was the shoot, I think, because we shot during COVID and it was just very tough. We kept using locations every day because they kept changing like the alert levels. So like for example, we shot all the training scenes in the school, and the day that we wrapped, the government announced that, oh, no one can enter the schools anymore in Taiwan. So it was like that kind of shoot. Like every day we would lose the locations that we already planned to shoot in for like months ahead. Uh, and then obviously the crowd scenes were tougher because you have to do like all the tests on everybody. And on top of that, it was like very, very cold in Taiwan. It was like the coldest winter in 80 years, and it rained every day. But I think the rain actually helped the shoot in the end, because like the water scene is really important in the film. The river scene, I mean. And to the extent that I chose Chinese characters for the names with the water sign in them, to highlight the importance of the river scene. So in the end, the fact that it really, I think it added to the atmosphere of the film. Like, it was quite good for the film, yeah, but it was very tough, these sheets.
PS has been shown in various film festivals, like you won an award in Karlov, and it was shown in India as well. So, what has been the audience response towards the film?
Oh, it depends from place to place. But in general, I think, the ones that really love it, they really responded to the sibling relationship. They've all like they will receive a lot of like DMs on Instagram saying, oh, I have this older sibling who is like this and like that. So I think a lot of people with siblings really responded to it. But in general, I think it hits a nerve with people who have family members who are a bit troubled. Yeah. Or anyone that has been in love that and then lied to. I think the film really hits a nerve with them. So it's been a very nice experience showing the film to audiences and seeing such great responses.
So, like, you're a filmmaker and you have gone to film school and you might have seen a lot of films. So, are there any your favorite films and filmmakers that have influenced you a lot?
Um, I really like Last Caution by Ang Hee. So I think that's probably my favorite film. I like him because I think that, at least, Last Caution is a very sincere film. And I think the emotions in it are very raw. And I really like his work with actors. So that's one thing I really admire about him. I also really like the older Bong Joon-ho movies like Memories of Murder, Laska, and Mother. Uh, I think both films are rooted in American filmmaking styles, like the storytelling and in terms of the screenplay, even having some sense, the editing, which is very similar to the way I was educated, probably. So I guess that's why I respond to them a lot. But I also really like a lot of comedies. I really like Adaptation by by Jones. And yeah, I also really like some Pixar films. Like, I think Inside Out, the script is very good. Yeah. They have like 14 of the most brilliant screenwriters working on the script. So I guess that's why, yeah.
Okay, okay, brilliant, brilliant. So, Nilisha, my last question is like there are a lot of aspiring filmmakers in the world. Like you have made a film, so what advice would you give to them? Like if they want to pursue filmmaking and want to make their film.
think you need to have a very strong support system because it's really very, very, however difficult you think it is, just multiply that by like 1 million. And then it's just like, it's a lot of things that will have, it's a tough industry. I think it's because it's one of the, so one of the reasons I love film is also one of the things that makes it, I think, very difficult, which is that it's one of the few artistic disciplines where the market and money is really, really important, like the business side of it. And I think that's when film gets very, very complicated, you know. So a lot of things will like happen that you cannot really understand why, or like you know, like it's just very, you have to deal with a lot of like why, like what nonsense is this kind of thing. So I think the only advice, I mean, there's nothing I can say that will prepare anyone for what it feels like, because it's really like crazy. But uh, it's important that you have like people that you can rely on or support, because terrible things will happen and you need someone to be there for you when those things happen. Yeah.